Right now, I turn to the phone line to a man who spent 15 years in the National Football League, Heisman Trophy winner from USC, and a good friend of the program. Number one overall pick back in his day. He is Carson Palmer. How are you, Carson?
Rich, I'm well. Thanks for having me.
You got it. A man who knows his facial hair, and you. Do you want to chime in on our poll question today to start everything off? The best mustache in television? I don't know if you heard the choices that we have out there, Carson.
Oh, it's. I mean, I actually used to rock a Detroit Tiger hat back in the day, and couldn't name a player on the team, but Magnum PI used to rock that hat, so I did myself.
Are you serious?
I think he's an obvious pick for runaway, and in fact, he had the mustache in which every mustache was judged thereafter. So there's no doubt it's the best mustache ever.
Well, I mean, I do have to, on behalf of Burt Reynolds, step in here and say, but maybe just television-wise, and we're looking at right now at the Detroit Tiger hat. So you would watch Magnum PI and young Carson Palmer growing up said, I got to rock the Detroit Tiger hat because of Magnum?
Oh, I loved the show. I rocked that hat, like I said, for a long time. I couldn't have told you a player on the team, but Magnum PI was wearing the hat, so was I.
Is that why you have a Ferrari now, too, Carson?
Red Ferrari, yep. Still rocking the red Ferrari, too.
You slide across the hood of it right when you get home. That's what you do.
Exactly.
So, all right, let's get into some football conversation. Your name came up a couple weeks ago when I had Trent Dilfer on talking about Tom Brady and how he will look in the Bruce Arians offense or how the two of them will work together. And he's like, who would talk very well on this front about it would be Carson Palmer. So now here you are. How do you feel the Arians-Brady marriage will go, Carson?
Well, I think it's going to be great. I mean, Bruce is, he's a very difficult guy to play for. He has very, very high expectations. He doesn't put up with a lot of nonsense, but he treats his vets like adults and like vets, and he treats the young guys like young guys. And obviously Brady coming there and having the experience he has, I see him running and them running a lot of what Bruce's offense has been for a number of years. But I also see Tom coming in and going, look, I need my 30 pass plays that I absolutely love. We can reterm them and put them in your language so they fit in the Bruce Arians offense. But I would almost be positive, and I don't know this for a fact, but Tom's coming in and really running the bread and butter of what he's been running for the past 20 years. I mean, there are very few quarterbacks that get to play really in the same system their entire careers. And for 20 years in New England, first it was Charlie Weiss and Bill O'Brien and then Josh McDaniels, but really that was Brady's offense. If you go back and look at the years, they're running the same concept year after year after year. And, it goes from, Wes Welker into Julian Edelman and then just continues to evolve into different players. But really it's the bread and butters of what he's been running for the last 20 years. So I would assume that Tom's going into New England with his top 30, 40 pass plays and really kind of building what Bruce's offense doesn't have or isn't, doesn't have similar plays to what Brady's been running for so long, and then building upon that. So I think at the end of the day, it's a really good mixture of those two guys' offenses.
Carson, you started your answer with two statements that normally would be contradictory. You said it's going to go great, and then you said Arians is difficult to play for. Normally that sounds like that would be a bad mix. What makes him so difficult to play for that actually is great for a quarterback, Carson?
Well, that sounds a lot like Bill Belichick, doesn't it? I mean, really, really great to play for, but really, really difficult and very demanding and very high expectations. It'd be one thing to be a first-year quarterback and a rookie quarterback under Bruce. So it would be a long, long season. But being Tom and having his accomplishments and his 20-plus years of experience, I think Bruce is going to treat him really, really well and treat him like a vet. But I think Tom is used to a certain standard, and Bruce demands that same kind of standard that I think Belichick does in New England. So I think that mesh is going to be really well. It's not going to be that far off as far as how difficult practice is going to be, how intense meetings are going to be, how you really have to be on top of your game, whether you're sitting in the classroom and Bruce is up in front of the group, or you're out there on the practice field, or you're on the sidelines in game day. He is always on it. He is very strict. You cannot, if you're a young receiver and you line up in the wrong spot, more than one time, it's probably going to be a couple of days till you get another rep on the practice field. He does not put up with nonsense and not knowing your stuff. And that's a lot of what we hear out of Bill Belichick in New England is he's difficult to play for. He's very demanding. So, I don't think it's too big of a transition for Brady. He's not going to, a very loosey-goose environment with a lot of, pump-up speeches and some of the stuff you hear out of different teams in the league. He's going to kind of a similar guy. He expects you to be on your P's and Q's. He expects you to have already watched your opponent coming in to the next week and know the defenses you're playing and know the personnel. I mean, he is not easy to play for. But as long as you take care of your business, you play to his standard and the standard you set for yourself, and you come into a game week knowing your opponent and knowing what blitzes come up on third down and what to expect in the red zone. As long as you stay on top of your game, Bruce is great to play for.
So what's the most difficult, this begs the follow-up, Carson Palmer, what's the most difficult memory or the most difficult Arians was to you that leaps out from your memory? Give me the most difficult moment you had with Bruce.
There was one every day.
Okay.
Nonstop. He doesn't let you get away with anything. I mean, his point is this is the National Football League. Guys aren't running around wide open. You have to make guys open and throw guys open and use your eyes to open up, receivers and tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. But he's just always on, and he's great. He's great to have a beer with and play golf with. But when you're at the facility, you better be on your game, and you better know if he asks you a question, you better know the answer, or else you're going to hear about it, and you're going to hear about it, and so is everybody else on that team because he's going to say it loud enough that everybody hears him. Making sure you know your stuff. And from everything we all know about Tom is he shows up ready to work. He shows up prepared. So I just think that mesh is going to be really, really natural and easy for the two of them.
Carson Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you say, again, Tom will come in with a bunch of plays and Bruce will change the language. Byron Leftwich will place it all into an offense and off they go. What do you say to people who think it's not maybe a scheme fit because of the no risk it, no biscuit? Tom's going to be 43. There might not be enough people back to protect, et cetera, so on and so forth. That's definitely been part of the conversation I've heard a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Bruce's offense, and he sits in a ton of, he empties the backfield, and they're in spread offense. No backs in the backfield, no extra tight ends in blocking. It's 5-on-5, 5 offensive linemen blocking 4 or 5 pass rushers. So, I mean, that's what Bruce wants to be in. He wants to give you as many options as you can have with having 5 guys out in a route. And you look back at, especially back in the day, in the mid-2000s, Brady was in a ton of empty packages, and we just would sit at the line of scrimmage in no-huddle type scenarios and redirect protections and pick up a lot of different blitzing schemes that people were bringing at him and throw the ball down the field. So I think those two guys see the game the same. Now, can Brady still, on a 7-step, no-hitch type of pass play, throw it 65 yards if he's got the right coverage and the right pattern on? Probably not. He's probably a guy that needs to get to the top of his drop, be moving up in the pocket, and be able to really hitch into throws to get the ball down the field. That is going to take away some of the stuff that Bruce loves to do. But what you lose with Brady, in his arm being 42 years old and maybe not having, the same carry on his long balls, maybe not having the same arm strength, you gain so many other things. I mean, his ability at the line of scrimmage to dissect what you're bringing defensively and put himself and the guys around him in the correct protection for that blitz is second to none. So what you lose physically with Brady's age and all the wear and tear in his body, you gain so much from and then you throw in the whole leadership aspect and the expectation aspect. Every day those guys are having to walk into the facility with maybe the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I mean, you gain so much. When you weigh the gains versus the losses and the pluses versus the minuses with Brady and his age, he just has so much more to offer with his leadership and his ability to run an offense at the line of scrimmage.
Before I let you go, Carson Palmer, the big story outside of the Super Bowl, at the Super Bowl, was where Brady was going to go. Now we know the answer to that. The other story outside of the Super Bowl was so big involved Joe Burrow and whether he wanted to be drafted by Cincinnati, your brother being his throwing guru, and your comments about the Bengals. You realize you kind of threw everything into the frying pan, right, Carson? Back then?
Yeah, I did that a while ago, though. That didn't just happen at the Super Bowl. That happened about 7, 8, 9 years ago, something like that.
So
that didn't go over well. I understand that. I get it. If I'm asked a question, I'm going to give an answer, and outside of Cincinnati, outside of the Bengals organization, I don't think there's many people that would argue that they haven't been really very competitive for the last 20 years. So that's basically what I was saying.
Right, but it's different now, right? I mean, I know the owner's the same, but they seem to have a. Would you say that still stands? Your statement, Carson?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been there in 6 or 7 years, so I can't speak to how things are currently operating.
Right.
I just hope that they are taking those strides and making an effort, to get up to speed with the rest of the league and be on par with the rest of the league as far as, everything that goes into building an organization and building a culture. And just over the last, I don't know how many years or decades, they just haven't consistently shown an effort to try to win a Super Bowl and do whatever it takes and hire, a GM that can come in and move things in the right direction. They seem to just kind of be sitting in the same spot they have been for the last handful of decades. And I know from, just friends in the area and lifelong Bengal fans, I know it's frustrating from their perspective. It's frustrating from a player's perspective when you come from one organization and then get there and see how things are done. It can be frustrating. So I think there's just a lot of pent-up frustration from, past players, maybe some current players, but I know definitely from the fan base. And Joe's an exciting player. He's an exciting talent. I mean, he's an Ohio kid. I know, that team and that organization means a lot to him growing up in that area. And it's an opportunity to play in front of his family and play in front of his high school teammates, all the people that are still there that he grew up around, and that he means so much too. So, if what it looks like he's going to go there. If he goes there, he's got his work cut out for him. That's a really difficult division to be in. You got to play against Baltimore year in, year out. You got to play against Pittsburgh year in, year out. Cleveland's kind of a wild card because they have this massive amount of talent on their roster. So it's an uphill battle, no doubt. And the teams that pick number one, you always have an uphill battle because you had the worst record in the league the previous year. So, I'm excited for him. I think it's kind of every kid's dream to go and play for their hometown team and get to play in your home state or your home city. So that's unique and that's special. Not many people get that opportunity, and it looks like Joe's going to get that chance.
Carson, you're the man. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Best to your family, best to your wife, best to your kids, best to all the Palmers. You take care of yourself. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Rich.
Right back at you go. That's Carson Palmer right here on The Rich Eisen Show.